So I had my first period in 5th grade. And at that very moment, I thought to myself, I am dying. So I told my mom, and she gave me a wrong explanation of what menstruation is, so left me really confused as of where the blood came from, why I have more severe cramps than my peers, or why she always asked me to pull the pads out from its original package and put it in a separate little red furry bag she bought me from Taiwan. So on my way to the school's bathroom, I don't have to be worried about other people seeing me carrying a pad around. As I grew older, my cramps got worse, and I have to miss 1 to 2 days of school every month. To add up to right now, I have already missed a half a year of school. One time, a boy in my 6th grade class pulled out a pad from my bag and swung it in front of me, and with a huge smirk on his face, he asked, "Do you know what this is?" I said no, because the thought of other people, even the other people knowing that I know what menstruation is, gave me so much embarrassment, especially if it's a question from the person of the opposite sex. So I carried this kind of shame from primary school to middle school until one day in high school, I had a sudden period. So I asked my classmate, "Can I borrow a pad from you?" She said, "Okay, follow me." And I followed her to the locker, and there she stood with her 2 hands on the knob. She looked around the crowd for 2 whole minutes just to find that exact same moment, the perfect moment when no one else was looking. And she hid the pad underneath her sleeve and handed it to me, and she ran away rapidly. So after witnessing this very sketchy drug dealing like thing, I, for the first time, asked myself, why do I need to feel so embarrassed of menstruation? Does that mean I'm not a good person if I menstruate? If other people see me carry a pad, are they going to report me to the police? A couple days after that incident, I stumbled upon a YouTube video about how homeless women in America deal with period. They will buy a pad, and then they will rip the pads into different little pieces and roll them up to use as a substitute for tampons. And under the comment section, I discovered the term period poverty, meaning people's lack of access or inability to afford sanitized menstrual health products. And I'm from China, so I thought, okay, what's that situation like in China? However, after research, I found 0 data and 0 report. And that has haunted my mind ever since. During the peak of Wuhan pandemic, I read from the news that because of the lockdown, female workers in the hospital, they don't have access to pads since it's not on the list of essential supplies. And I thought maybe I can do something about it. So I mobilized a team, and we find ways to get our donation, and we successfully delivered pads to more than 500 female workers in the hospitals through a special donation transition route. However, I asked myself a really essential question. The female workers, they got paid well, so they have the cash to buy the pads. They just don't have the access to it. But how about the people who cannot afford pads? So with that question in mind, me and my team decided to investigate period poverty among teenage girls in rural China. Through handing out hundreds of surveys, interviewing both students, parents of the students, teachers, street vendors, we went to the girls' home, and also interviewing the cashiers in the local convenience store, this is what we found out. Around 50% of the teenage girls in that village could not afford pads, so they will buy a kind of like yellowish rough paper napkins as a substitute. It only costs them 90 cents a month. However, it smells like raw bamboo, and the texture feels like kitchen napkins, really rough. There is no sex education available provided by school, and what's worse, some girls even told us they use cloths as a substitute. What really terrifies me is so many girls will miss 1 whole week of school because they don't want to deal with period or cramps at school. So they will go back home, stay there for an entire week, and go back to school the week after because the commute to school is way too long. In that way, they will miss 1/4 of school compared to boys, starting from the very first day they got their period. So I decided to do something. Me and my team thought one of the ways we can prevent girls from missing school is to donate pads to them. However, we don't think that is enough because sex education is equally important. Without sex education, they're just gonna be like me. When they first got their period, they thought they're gonna die. So in the past 3 years, me and my team have supplied over 4,000 girls in rural China with pads, underwears, and in-person sex education classes. My call to action, one joke. Despite all the efforts I made, my cramps did not get any better. Yeah, I feel like I invested a lot of energy into mediating period poverty issue, but that doesn't help me personally. So my call to action is that For the women or people who menstruate right here, do not feel ashamed because you already have half of the world as allies. For those who do menstruate, I have a story, do not menstruate. I have a story to tell. One of my close friends, also a male coworker of mine, he one day received a period cup from our sponsors, and he will put it on his desk, even if he doesn't use it, and he does not care about what other people will say about him putting a period cup on his desk. At the end of it, I want to say that this society makes us feel so uncomfortable about so many stuff, and sometimes we feel so ashamed before we started questioning it. So we gotta start asking ourselves why, keep questioning it, and at the end of it, we gotta make sure that people who menstruate thrive, period. Thank you.